Hi, welcome to Attack on Final Fantasy. Normally, I do a podcast where I try to complete every single Final Fantasy game using attack only, but today I wanted to try to complete Final Fantasy II Pixel Remaster with magic only. The rules are very simple. The only things I can do in battle is use magic. This can be either from spells or from an item if I choose to do so. I will only choose to do so if I run out of magic in battle. Speaking of, if somebody runs out of magic and they cannot attack with an item, then we have to flee. I choose to flee because there's a chance that the other party members will take the enemies down using magic whilst we're trying to flee, but on the other hand, they might not do it before we can flee and will waste MP and EXP. And finally, any items can be used on the field out of battles. One last thing, to cut down the grind, I'm going to be using the in-game boosters. I can't use any mods because I'm playing on PlayStation, but in-game boosters are fine. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm Pete, and this is Final Fantasy II Pixel Remaster, Magic Only. The very first battle of the game is unwinnable, so I choose to attack because I'm going to get wiped out anyway, and I've got no magic, so I can't do anything else. When we gain control of the party again, we find out that Morgana has gone missing. We go to speak with Hilda, and she teaches us about the password system. Now we are free to start the game properly. The first thing I do is stick everyone in the back row and slap those boosters on. I head into town to grab my first magic spells. I get 2 fire tomes and a cure tome. This is all I can afford right now, so it's time to go grind some gil. After a bit of a grind, I've got enough gil to get everybody fire, ice, thunder and cure spells. Unlike in Final Fantasy I where you had spell slots, this game has actual MP. The way you gain stats in this game has split the fanbase down the middle. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally love it. The way I see it is it's just doing what Skyrim does. So basically, the more you use something in battle, the better it'll get. So for example, I'm using a fire, my fire will go up slowly. The stronger the enemy you're fighting, the more it will go up in a battle. The MP cost to cast these spells is reflective of the level they're at. So for example, my Blizzard spell is level 3, that is costing me 3 MP per cast. The max level for any skill in this game is level 16, but, a little bit of a spoiler, I don't even come close to that with my magics. And can I also just gush a little bit about this game? I love that how the magics go up in level and the animations for the magics change. It's so, it's just gorgeous. I love it. Anyway, back to the game. We head north to Finn and I see if I could take a guard on, which I do so successfully. And he drops a toad spell. I don't bother learning this though, but I will be selling it for gil if I get a little bit strapped for cash later on. After getting a ring, we're asked to go and retrieve some mithril to help strengthen the rebels' arms, which will help in the fight against the Empire. And the white mage Minwu joins us, along with his canoe. He is stacked up with level 7 white magics. We head northwards, passing through 2 towns, the latter of which I stop and I buy some new armors for everyone. I also get the life spell and the teleport spell. It's around the halfway point of the first dungeon that I realise I should be targeting all enemies to conserve MP. Up until now, I've been targeting each enemy individually to strengthen my spells. With the mithril in hand, we head back to Altair and we hand it over to the blacksmith. Now we can get some new armors for everybody, which we do so. Hilda tells us that the Empire has a warship called the Dreadnought, and she suggests that we go talk to Cid in Poft. But Cid doesn't really have any information for us, so we choose to walk to the next town. Cid does offer airship taxis, but I don't take these because walking everywhere means I'm going to get into fights and that's going to make my magic stronger. As we're walking on the world map, we spot the Dreadnought. It is docked in some mountains behind the next town, which is called Bafsk. That's spelled B-A-F-S-K, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Probably not though. The magic here is no good to us, so we continue on to the next dungeon, Bafsk Cave. This is a very short dungeon, and when we get to the end of it, the Dreadnought takes flight and starts bombing towns. We find a pass for the Dreadnought in a chest, and then we leave the caves. Back in Altair, we discover the place has been attacked, and Minwu leaves the party to take care of Hilda's father, the king. With little else to do, we make the journey back to Poft to speak to Cid, where we learn about Sunfire, which we can use to blow up the Dreadnought's engine. This sounds familiar. So once again, we walk back to Altair. So far, there's been absolutely zero in the way of challenge during this magic only run. My magics have topped out at level 4 with just 2 of them at level 5, and they don't seem to be budging. After some story beats, we're asked to go get the Goddess Bell. So we travel north to a snowfield, but we need a snowmobile to get through to the cave that holds the Goddess Bell. Luckily, we find a guy called Joseph, and he agrees to lend us his snowcraft. We teach him a fire spell because he doesn't know any magics, and now we're away. Eventually we make it to the next dungeon, the Snow Cavern. Partway through the Snow Cavern, Rowena runs low on MP, so I'm forced to get her to flee until she can recover it. This is a nightmare because half the battles I'm now losing out on stats, not that this game's very hard yet. So, long story short, we grab the Goddess Bell, Joseph dies, and we make it back to Altair after having a little nap in a town on the way there. We are then asked to take the Goddess Bell to a place called Kashan Keep, which is to the northwest of Altair. Now a little bit of an interjection with the world map here. It wraps around on itself. You can walk pretty much anywhere except for, I do believe it is 2 islands that you have to use a boat to get to, but otherwise anywhere is accessible from the start. Generally in this game, enemies north of Altair are harder than the enemies to the south, so I choose to go northwards and across a desert in hopes that my magics will level up a little bit more. I make a pit stop to grab some cottages for the long journey ahead, and then we are away. I'm really glad I decided to come this way. The battles are far more deadly and I'm actually gaining some meaningful stat boosts. Rowena actually died in one battle. When we get to the keep, we ring the bell to gain access, and we find a guy called Gordon in here. I haven't mentioned him yet, but he has cropped up in the story a couple of times now. He has come here to search for Egil's torch, which will carry the Sunfire. Gordon doesn't know any magic at all, so I teach him Blizzard and we head into the keep together. The keep itself is fine, no troubles at all. It isn't until the boss, the Red Soul, that we get into trouble. This boss will heal itself when attacked with magic, which is fantastic for us. I check the internet because the internet knows everything, and apparently a level 5 or 6 teleport spell can teleport the boss away. So I reload and it's time to grind the teleport spells. I use the desert that is to the south of here because it's got some very strong enemies. During the grind, Gordon does go down, but I choose not to revive him as he's pretty useless. Once both of my teleport spells are level 5, I return to take on the Red Soul again. By the time I get there, my teleports are level 6, which is lovely. However, I couldn't get the spell to work on him, so I reload again. Then I spot something called Magic Interference in my status screen, so I unequip everyone with that armour and try again, hoping this was the cause, but it wasn't. So once again I return to the internet and look for some help. This is where I find out I can go south to Mysidia to buy some really good magic. Instead of making the long walk to the south to Mysidia, I decide to go by Chocobo. Little fun fact, this is the first game that Chocobos appear in. However, this Chocobo doesn't take us all the way to Mysidia, we have to stop at a river. There's no way to cross it other than with our canoe. Once in Mysidia, we get 3 holy spells. The Red Soul will not absorb these, and it will take damage instead. I grab some new armors, and I decide to go back north once again. The journey is going to be treacherous, but with Holy at my side, I'm sure I'll be fine. Oh, how wrong I was. On my way back, I nearly get a game over because of 3 ghosts, but Rowena survives. In another fight, the party gets confused and start attacking themselves, but on the plus side, they've gained a level each in shields and hands. We eventually make it back face to face with the Red Soul, and it goes down in 2 casts of Holy. Back on the world map, we witness a dreadnought shipnap another ship out of mid-air, and we decide that we must return to Altair to find out what's going on. As I'm walking south, we stumble across the dreadnought. It is docked, so I heal up and we enter. It's amazing that none of the soldiers seem at all bothered that there are monsters aboard this ship. There are zombies, there are gas, there are all sorts, but nobody seems to bother. It's fine, it's just a day in the dreadnought, I guess. I make a wrong turn and end up in the engine room early. We're meant to save the princess, but I have no idea how we know she's on board. After freeing the princess and dropping the Sunfire into the dreadnought's engine, we make our escape on Sid's airship as the dreadnought blows up. We get dropped off back in Altair, and I spend all the gil that I've been hoarding on ethers, cottages, and 3 elixirs. We go to speak with the king, and he orders us to go to Deist, so we have to get a boat there. In Palom, we meet Leela, who is a sailor, and she says she'll take us there. Turns out Leela is a pirate, and she ambushes us with her crew when we're out in the open ocean. After we beat the pirates, Leela joins us, and we get a ship. Once we've sailed to Castle Deist, we get a little side quest. In the cave to the north there's a pendant that we can use to commune with a sick wyvern. This pendant was in the very first room we looked in, so it was nice and easy. When we get back to the castle, we ask the wyvern for help against the Empire, but it's too poorly, so it gives us its only child to submerge in a life spring in the cave to the north, so we have to head back. After making our way through the cave to the life spring, we are forced to fight 4 chimeras, but they go down fairly easily after a few rounds of Holy. We let the egg sink into the spring and teleport out. We journey back to Altair, where Hilda wishes to speak with Rincewind alone. After some sexy talk, we discover Hilda is a Lamia queen, and Hilda is still in the hands of the Empire. We have to rescue her. Leela leaves the party, and Gordon rejoins us. Just to quickly summarise the next part of the game, we beat a behemoth and we rescue Hilda. That's pretty much it. There's not a very big dungeon or any troubles at all. Once again we find ourselves back in Altair, but nobody is here. They're launching an attack on Castle Finn to take it back. This is the next dungeon of the game, but I choose to just storm straight upstairs to the throne room and kill the general that is guarding it, taking the castle back, and now we got to go to Mysidia once again. Hilda wants us to go check on Minwu, who went to a tower or something. There's something to do with masks, I'm unsure. I completely skipped all the dialogue and didn't write anything down for it. But there's masks involved and there's a tower that holds the ultimate magic. There are 2 masks, one white, one black. One of them is in the castle below us, so we use a password to open up a secret passage. On the journey down here, we get into a battle that turns 3 of my party members to stone, leaving Rincewind to trudge on his own. But it's okay, because a white mask is literally minutes away, and I get warped out of here anyway. In Mysidia, we're told the black mask is hidden on an island. So we pop a white mask on a statue of a goddess which is under the village here and head off to the island. When we get to the island we need to navigate a maze, and eventually we find the black mask after fighting off some big horns. The next stop is the Cave of Mysidia, which is located east of Mysidia. We pop the black mask on a doppelganger, I have no idea why, and it allows us to venture deeper into the Mysidian cave. Halfway through this, I decide that it would be a good time to try and figure out what magical interference means, so I unequip everything from my party to see if they do more damage. If anything did change, I couldn't tell the difference, and it's pretty dangerous. Rincewind almost goes down, so I opt to re-equip everything and forget about this mystery stat. At the end of this dungeon, we get a crystal rod and we're teleported back outside. Since I got Holy, it's the only spell I've been using, and it's sort of level 8, level 9, depending on character. Our next destination is Mysidian Tower, which is where Minwu went. As we approach in our boat, we get sucked into a whirlpool and end up in the belly of Leviathan. This place has floor traps which do damage when walked upon. Also, Leela has gone missing. But fear not, because we come across a dragoon called Ricard who joins us. I teach Ricard the only spell I have, which is Drain, and we continue on. We're shocked to find there's a whole village worth of people just chilling in this beast. They've got tables, chairs, bookshelves and beds. Merlin has hit his max level, which is 9,999, just in time to fight the monster blocking the exit. The roundworm. It passes away after 3 casts of Holy and we're free to leave on a boat. Using the crystal rod, we gain access to the Mysidian Tower. The enemies are starting to get meatier now. Instead of being instantly wiped out, they're taking a few casts to go down. Shortly into the tower, Ricard runs out of MP, so I'm forced to waste my beautiful precious ethers on him. On the plus side though, Rincewind has hit max HP. We come up against the first boss, which is a Fire Gigas, and it goes down very quickly. Then, after another couple of floors, is the Ice Gigas, which goes down the same way. Finally, the Thunder Gigas. Well, you know what happens to it. On the 8th floor, I stumble across a Flare Tome. I teach this to Rincewind and immediately start using it in battles to get it leveled up. On the 9th floor, the Holy Spells hit level 10 and they are looking stunning. We find Minwu at the top of the tower. How he got into the tower is anyone's guess. He uses all of his power to remove a seal on a door and passes away, but he did not die in vain. Behind this door is 5 crystals. 4 of them up our stats, and the 5th bestows upon us Ultima, the ultimate magic. I teach this to Merlin. We use a warp tile that appears and hop back onto our ship. Then we sail back for Castle Finn. As we get there, we spot a massive cyclone just chilling in the back garden. We're meant to summon the wyvern that we helped earlier and fly it into the cyclone to put a stop to its rampage. However, I decide now would be a great time to level up my flare and ultimate magics. So I spend all my gil on ethers and elixirs and head for my favourite desert. Honestly, Ultima seems a little bit shit. At level 8 it's only doing just over 400 damage. Now this may be because I gave it to Merlin, but their level 10 Holy is hitting just shy of 2000. It's only after getting it to level 9 that I decided to have a look at the internet to see what it says about Ultima. It turns out the higher levels other spells and skills have, the more damage it does. So I'm just going to use Holy again. Back in the castle, we locate a mirror and we summon the wyvern through it. Luckily, Ricard knows how to fly a wyvern and we fly into the cyclone. Inside this cyclone there's an entire dungeon, but we managed to get through it with no problems at all. At the end there's a mini enemy gauntlet before we face off against the Emperor. The Emperor vows not to die, and the game is done. We head back to Finn for a shindig and the game closes out. So perfect, yes, you can beat Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster, with just oh, hang on a minute. The soldiers just busted in and told us that Morgana has named himself the Emperor and is going to attack. You might not remember, but Morgana was the original 4th party member. He's not been seen since the start of the game. But that's a lie, we have seen him a bunch of times. He is basically this Dark Knight who has been around and everyone's been like, oh my god, do you reckon that's... It's like, yeah, that is definitely. We need to break into Palamecia Castle. To do so, we need an airship. Luckily for us, Cid is ready to pass away and passes his one onto us. So we go and pick it up and airdrop into the castle. It's around this time in the run when I'm sick to the back teeth of random encounters. The temptation to just flick them off was almost overwhelming, but I stayed honest and I made it through every gruelingly boring battle. Rowena's hand skills get a level up because she gets confused and starts punching her own teammates. We eventually find Morgana, but before we can beat him to a pulp for betraying us, we get interrupted by the Emperor. They have returned from a massive grind session in hell and are now ready to destroy everything or something equally Final Fantasy. Ricard sacrifices himself and distracts the Emperor whilst the party and Morgana escapes on the wyvern. Back in Finn, Morgana decides to join us for the last leg of this adventure. Before we head off for the final dungeons of the game, we grab him a holy spell from Mysidia. The Jade Passage is probably the prettiest dungeon in the whole entire game, but that doesn't mean it's not a slog to get through. Morgana goes down a short way into the dungeon, but I'm not going to revive the scumbag. We find a mage behind a waterfall, but his spells are pretty useless to us, so we leave this little pervert to do whatever he was doing behind that waterfall. We finally hit the last dungeon, Pandemonium. I can't believe I said that. I normally really struggle with that word. Pandemonium. I'm getting good at words. There are some enemies in this dungeon called Death Riders. They will sap a lot of health when they hit a party member. Rincewind goes down twice, but luckily I've got life and a stock of elixirs to keep everyone up on their feet. During our wander through the dungeon, we fight some mini bosses and get the Genji armor and a ribbon. I don't equip the ribbon though. Then we arrive at the final boss of the game, the Emperor. Again. This battle did make me worry a little bit. The only way I've ever beaten this fight is with the blood sword, but that isn't an option. So I launch into battle and throw a bunch of holy spells at him. The first time we try, we get a party wipe. The Emperor has this attack that does a load of damage and also saps HP, healing himself. The second time, I decide to revive Morgana as an extra meat shield and bombard it with holy spells again. Morgana dies, shortly followed by Merlin, but luckily Rowena and Rincewind pull through. So yes, you absolutely can beat Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster, with magic only. If you've enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more Final Fantasy rubbish. I've been Pete, and I'll catch you in the next one.